interesting session. But at the same time, I also want to make sure that we take this time to kind of answer any of the questions that you may have. My name is Chung Hung Lee, and then with me is Chris Haas, who's also on the team, and Kylan. We're part of the larger product management and UX team, as well as the dev team, that have actually built this exciting product called the Agent Workspace. Some of my colleagues are all sitting over here, so we're all very anxious to kind of hear your feedback. The point of today's session is very simple. We wanted, you've heard a lot about us talking about this new UI. What I wanted to do is actually kind of walk you through a little bit of the background and kind of why we kind of built the way that we actually did. And then Chris is actually going to walk you through another real-life demo, but this time, an actual working code demo so that you don't think it's vaporware that we're actually harboring somewhere else. But also, and then Kylan is going to come up and actually talk to you a little bit about configuration options. I think a few of you who have come up to us, especially in the booth in the CreatorCon section, have already kind of talked to us. It's like, well, what if I want this and I want that instead? And can I configure it this way? Can I do this differently? And so we definitely would love to kind of get a little bit more of your feedback. So that's kind of like more or less kind of what we had in mind. There is a survey at the end of this session. Part of the reason that this product is actually being released as limited access is for us to kind of learn from you. We felt that right now there's still a lot of things that we may not have fully addressed from an agent experience perspective, but we also want to know that many of you are hungering for something like this to actually solve some of the problems already. And so we'll tell you a little bit also about how you can kind of give us feedback, but also different ways that you can be part of the program that we call the limited access as well. Okay? So before I get started, can I just get a show of hands who actually is representing or who comes from the IT space? Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. What about the customer service side? Okay. And then can I also get a show of hands, like how many agents are you regularly fielding requests for or serving? Is it like between, can I show of hands like below 100? Okay. How about between 100 and 1,000? Oh, wow. Okay, great. So this is good. So again, we are very interested to kind of hear your feedback. I will tell you a little bit more about the background. You've seen this UI multiple times. We can kind of walk you through the different kind of aspects of it. And if you want a little bit more detail, feel free to stop by. We also have our Customer 360 section. If you want to kind of like really, really in-depth exploration of what this actually can do, but also kind of give us the live feedback that we're also looking for as well. So why Agent Workspace? When we actually were on this journey last year, we quickly realized that a lot of the customers that we serve, the same agents that you serve, have this capability to be very, very resourceful. I mean, you practically hire these people because they can multitask. They can resolve different things on their own. I think we humbly would argue that perhaps we haven't given them the right tool to be productive. And we believe that with Agent Workspace, that you can not only enhance their productivity, but also allow them to be the agent that you were thinking you want them to be. Part of the thing that we've kind of observed very early on is that we have this idea of this swivel chair kind of mentality, right? You're often kind of going from one case to the next. You're often kind of switching context. You're drilling down, you're drilling back up. And the agent as a whole gets lost along the way. They have 10 different kind of sessions open. They kind of like, wait, what window corresponds to which was the one that I was kind of trying to address? I'll tell you a little story. One of the things that we found in visiting some of the agents, I actually had a chance to kind of meet with one of the agents, in my previous career, visiting a TurboTax agent. And so I sat around with her, and I was trying to understand, like, what exactly, does she do on a daily basis? And I couldn't help but notice, like halfway through, there was a lot of Post-it notes around her screen. And I don't know if this kind of like relates to some of the agents that you deal with, but there was a lot of kind of like scratch notes, like things I need to follow up on, like here's a password, how exactly to reset. Well, all those things are exactly some of the same things that we're looking to do here, except intelligently and presented in a UI that actually makes sense to you. So I asked her, what exactly are all these Post-it notes? And her answer to me was, this is my backup system, right? And so I think with Agent Workspace, we're not only trying to address some of the basic things that customers are expecting from us, but also the agents that you serve and what they're looking to kind of have from you. It is a configurable service desk that we're hoping at its forefront in terms of its core functionality will increase customer in their productivity, agent productivity. The second thing, obviously you can't crank through all kinds of tickets, every single one of them, and kind of say, oh, I got an A in terms of the number of tickets that I saw for the day. You also have to kind of make sure that you balance that with good customer service. And so some of the first few things that we actually found in terms of what actually delivers value, what the customers, what the agents themselves actually care about. One, it has to be easy to use, right? If I'm supposed to be looking at 10,000 foot level, drilling down to 1 foot level, and then going back up and down this ladder of understanding, it has to be simple. It has to be simple to navigate for me to understand what exactly is happening. There's this sense of kind of what we call situational awareness. If the agent may be working on a particular topic, but then they also need to know, it's like, oh, maybe a VIP customer request just came through. I need to make sure that I'm keeping my eyes on that. And I can't tell you how many of these agents I visited. I really, really don't know how they do their jobs. And I have a really, really deep appreciation of what they do on a daily basis, just because they go through so much just to kind of accomplish what they're trying to do. So the way that we kind of have actually tried to do this, and Chris will actually tell you a little bit more, is that we've designed it in such a way that it mimics the natural flow of work. What exactly does the agent need to do when they first come into their queue? What are all the things that they need to look out for? How do you drill down from a queue to a particular case? What are the cases that are most important? How do I make sure that I address the most important first? Address those VIP concerns first? And then I kind of go to the things that I need to get done. And then when I'm actually in the case, what are the agent kind of tools that is going to allow me to be even more productive? I think you saw in some of the keynotes, both in Farrell's keynote for the IT space, and even in some of the things that CJ showed today. Each one of those items we believe, is a step towards the better solution. We don't think that we have the perfect solution. We feel like every one of those is a second saved, and a second saved across the multiple hundreds, if not thousands of agents that you deal with is probably, dollars for your bottom line. So without further ado, I'm gonna skip that slide and jump right into the demo for Chris.
Work? Yep, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Chris Haas, and as Chung mentioned, I'm a product manager on the Agent Workspace project. I'm one of the old guys on this project, been involved with it for well over a year. So I'm super excited to actually be here at Knowledge, showcasing this to you guys. Super excited to see it on stage today with CJ. Show of hands, who saw the keynote this morning? And besides John's little sneak peek yesterday, was that your first time seeing Agent Workspace? Yeah. You guys pretty stoked about it? A lot of nodding heads. I like that. Awesome. Well, without further ado, I'm going to give you guys a bit of a feature tour of Workspace, and then Kylan's going to come up here and tell you about the configuration options, and then we'll do some Q&A at the end. So let me... And of course, it's... One second here. I'm not getting the display over here. It's not represented over here. Sorry, guys. 1 second. Yeah.
this off here. Let me see. And then try doing.
There we go. Okay. All right, this is going to be interesting because I can't see this on here. So let's see what happens. I love challenges. Okay, well, welcome to Agent Workspace. So as Chung mentioned, this is a tailor-built experience built around how agents actually do their work, instead of having agents work around our classic UI. So what you're looking at right now is the login screen. I'm sorry, the home screen. There we go, I can scroll. Which is basically, for our first iteration, just a welcoming screen. It's a static HTML page that simply orientates the agent to this new experience with all these different feature callouts that you see. Part of our roadmap, of course, is to eventually turn this into more of an interactive dashboard. So with all the different charts and metrics that you guys are pretty used to in the platform. But for V1, this is the experience that our agents will get. So we'll start the tour. Over here on the left, we have our main navigation bar. So the navigation bar consists of the home screen, which you see, lists, which is where the agents will access their list of records. And what's really exciting is that we have a fully integrated chat system. So all of that support chat, all within one UI. Down there at the very bottom left is our CTI integration. So you can actually hook up your telephony system and receive inbound support calls as well as make outbound calls through this UI. So let me start by going into the list here. And what you'll notice here is that this list panel appears. It is comprised of two main sections. The first section we call lists, and the bottom section there are my lists. So lists at the top, these are lists that a workspace list administrator role can actually build out and assign to teams, either via their assignment groups or their roles. So the use case behind this is maybe you're a service desk manager and you want to build your unassigned queue where your team should be looking for unassigned work to pick up. You can actually build that list and assign it to your team and tell them this is where you need to look for work. Now down below with my list, this is where the agent can actually personalize their lists. So they can create a new list. They can actually copy a list that was actually given to them or assigned to them. So if I click on this cog here, I enter into edit mode, and you notice I have these copy icons up here, so I can actually copy a list. So if I go ahead and open this one up, so I can actually change the criteria, I can change my columns. Pretty standard platform feature. And so go ahead and save here, exit out of edit mode. I'll tell you what, this is pretty challenging. I barely can see it. And right there, I've copied a list. I can also create new lists. I can reorder my lists. And that's essentially, for V1, how our users will personalize their lists. Now, clicking into a list, of course, it's a list of records. So for V1, it's actually a fairly simple list. Just simple sorting, paging, the ability to change your rows per page there at the bottom right. The ability to search a list at the very top. So this basically does a text index search across the underlying list. This list for V1 actually does not support UI actions. We only support one, say, static UI action, and that's the ability to create a new record from the list. So you notice that new button up there in the top right. And we also have a refresh button, which, pretty self-explanatory, refreshes the list. So let me go ahead and click on a record from here. In fact, I'm going to click on multiple records. So I'm going to hold down Command, or Control for Windows people, and go ahead and open up multiple records. So what you'll notice is Agent Workspace now supports a multi-tab interface. So any record that I open up from a list opens up as a new tab. So again, this supports productivity. Agents can now multitask and move between tabs or move between tickets much easier and not have to actually save their changes and navigate away. Moving into the form, the first thing you'll probably notice is that we have this new form header. So we've actually lifted data elements from the form and actually built out a form header. So the thought or the purpose behind this is that we want the agents to be able to orientate themselves quickly to what the ticket is about. So it's in today's platform forms, the agent probably has to scroll halfway down the page just to view the short description to understand what the ticket is about. With this new form header, they can quickly assess what the ticket is about and move forward with their resolution. Moving down here, you see this, what we like to call a ribbon or a heads-up display. So this is an area that shows contextually relevant information about this ticket. So in this case, I have a Customer 360 widget at the top left there, which shows me additional information about the caller. I have the timeline widget in the middle here, so if you're accustomed to our resolution shaper formatter and platform, that is actually available within Workspace as well. And over to the right here is the SLA widget. So this will actually show all the SLAs that are attached to this ticket, and it'll show you the one that's nearest the breach first. I can go ahead and collapse this ribbon. And here you'll notice another tab strip. So the first tab is the details tab, and that's actually the form data. Every other tab is actually a related list. So we pulled those related lists from the bottom of the form, put them at the top so they're more easily accessible. And what's really cool that's not actually displayed here is that if you have a number of related lists, you know, to today's platform, you get that ugly tab wrapping. In this case, you'll actually get an overflow dropdown. So if you can't fit all your related lists on one row, we'll actually do a dropdown so you can easily access those lists another way. And looking into the form, it's pretty much like a platform form. It contains different form sections, supports a 2-column layout. It's just been updated with a newer, cleaner design and look and feel. So it's easier to scan. It's easier for agents to actually assess what the information is on the form. Moving over to the right, you'll notice that the activity stream has been moved from the bottom of the form to the middle. So our research has shown that agents spend about 95% of their time on a ticket in the activity stream. So why not give it its own real estate right in the middle of the form? What were we thinking for the last 15 years? There we have it. The activity stream in V1 is pretty much on par with platform. Same exact kinds of features. You can reply with additional comments, work notes. You have the ability to filter your posts by type. One additional feature that we have that's really not well demoed here is the ability to expand and collapse all the posts. So I'm sure we've all dealt with incidents or any kind of task type that have long activity streams. So what we do initially is that we'll actually collapse those activity stream entries to make them more easily digestible. So we have added convenience features here where they can expand all those posts or collapse all those posts just to make it easier to work with. Okay, moving over into the right here, we have what we call the contextual sidebar that can be expanded and collapsed. The contextual sidebar is comprised of 3 different tabs. So the first tab here is what we call Agent Assist. Now, if you're familiar with contextual search in the platform today, this uses the same underlying search algorithms and search mechanics. It's just been essentially rebranded and modernized to make it easily more consumable and easier to work with. So agents no longer have to scroll halfway down the form to find relevant information that will help them resolve the case. Instead, that information is presented to them right above the fold where they can easily access that. I'll get more into that in a bit. The second tab here is attachments. So nothing too sexy here. This is essentially where you would attach file attachments to the ticket. And from there, you can manage them, you can view them, download them, delete them. The last tab over here in the sidebar is the form templates. How many people use form templates? Show of hands. All right, form templates are awesome. Form templates actually will set field values according to how you built the form template. So most basic use case is a first reply form template where an agent actually opens up a ticket for the first time. They use a form template to set a first response. So for our initial version, you have the ability to apply form templates, but you do not have the ability to create or modify them from this interface. That will be coming shortly within our V2 or possibly V3 release. Right above here, you'll notice we have these UI actions or buttons. They are UI actions. These are platform UI actions that have been specifically enabled for Workspace. So there's a key point there. These can be Workspace buttons or they can be Workspace menu buttons. So the menu button here is actually just into an overflow. So it's similar to kind of the contextual UI actions you're used to in platform today. All right. Let's see here. So going back over here, let's jump into chat. All right. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a time card, time work still on this Agent Workspace? So you can see how much time is
Yeah, we do have support for the duration field. And so, yeah, if you have that configured on your form, that does run. Yeah, cool. So really quick, just for demo purposes here, I'm just going to type something into the activity stream. Let's say, how am I spelling? Good? Awesome. Cool. So I'm just going to post that in there for fun and go into my chat. So as I mentioned earlier, we have a fully integrated chat system. So no longer will we actually force you into a new browser window, into a new experience. We've actually integrated all of our support chat into one unified interface, which is pretty darn cool. So going into the chat area, I see all the queues that I'm assigned to via my assignment group. In this case, I'm noticing that there are some pending chats into the IT service desk queue. So let me go ahead. Just by clicking on the queue, we'll open up the first, it's a FIFO queue, so first in, first out, chats. And so what you're noticing here is that I'm working on tickets, I'm working on chats, all within the same interface, which is pretty darn cool. So I can come down here. There's no one on the other end of this chat for the demo purpose, but let's say, how can I help you? Awesome. And so other features that we have, let's see here, we have the ability to attach files into the chat. We have the ability to transfer to a different queue. So maybe this chat actually wound up in a queue, maybe a hardware queue, and is actually a software issue. You can transfer it to a different queue. You also have the ability to transfer to another agent, which is pretty darn cool. And what's not part of this demo, but is in this ellipsis menu, is that you have the ability to configure actions. So who uses Connect support? That's good. All right. Who uses Connect actions? Awesome. So you guys are familiar with these actions. So basically, they're essentially shortcuts. So shortcuts to create an incident, attach a knowledge article, those can all be configured here and would display in this ellipsis menu. What you'll notice here is that when I opened up this chat, a new, what we call an interaction record was created. So this is a new thing that we've released in London. It's called our interaction management system. So every phone call that comes into the system, every chat that comes into the system, we create an interaction record by default. So essentially any interaction you have with a caller or a requester will be logged as an interaction. It's an optional record. It's similar to a kind of service desk call for those who have actually used that. It's like a staging ground for you to assess what the actual issue is. And then from here, you have the ability to create an incident, create a request from this interaction record. All right. So let me go back. OK. Well, part of my demo flaw here is an indicator was supposed to show up on this tab that indicates that a change has actually occurred to this ticket. So what we don't have in platform today is when you have all that browser sprawl, you have no idea what changed within those new browsers. So you might be waiting on a change from a caller, waiting on a response to a question. Workspace will actually light up the tab with a little indicator alerting the agent that a change has actually taken place. So again, as Chung mentioned, it's all about situational awareness, just making sure agents are aware of all the changes that are taking place to the work that they're currently managing. Makes them more productive and decreases that time to resolution. Yes?
With those indicators, can you do something else as well, like add info, header, message, to alert an agent that the customer just updated a ticket or something like that?
As of right now, it's just the indicator, and it's not customizable at this point, but you're not the first person to ask that, so you write that down.
Just one more question on chat. Are you guys addressing the auto sign, or is it still full?
We are assignment rules? No, I don't believe we're roadmap. But no, actually, no BS. That is actually on the roadmap. So we have on our roadmap an omni-channel strategy that's going to also include auto assignment. Cool. Okay, one more. Yeah, we do have a Q&A session at the end where we'll address them all. So let me just kind of finish up here. I just want to show you a couple things within Agent Assist. So as I mentioned, Agent Assist is similar to contextual search. It brings up relevant information that helps the agent resolve the ticket at hand. So that could be a knowledge article that they could attach to the ticket. It could be a catalog item that they could actually order. New to London, if you're a community subscriber, we actually do have solved questions and blogs as part of Agent Assist as well. So that's pretty cool. I can actually click on records here to look at a preview. So this, I think, is really super cool. You can actually preview, or not preview, read an entire knowledge article in line while also viewing the form and viewing the record and the activity stream. Now, if you're saying to yourself, God, I can't read that, well, good, because we can actually have a link and you can read the full article here as well.
Can you attach the knowledge article to the chat?
You absolutely can. Well, in V1, no, that's coming shortly in V2. Actually, let me go back to an actual incident. All right. And in this case, on this record, Agent Assist is surfacing up some catalog items. So the issue here is I can't log into my laptop. Agent Assist is like, how about a new laptop? Oh, that sounds good. Sounds good. So again, I can actually preview the catalog item within this pane, read the descriptions, assess whether or not this is something I want to order. And here's the kicker. I can actually order the laptop in the service catalog experience, all within Agent Workspace. So again, what's amazing about this, check out the navigation paradigm here. I started on an incident, now I'm in the service catalog. I've never lost track of where I started. Whereas in the platform today, we'll send you over to the catalog and we'll give you a little message saying, hey, when you're done here, go back to this record. Because we're sweet like that. Now in this case, we actually make sure that you understand where you started, where you're at. So at this point, I can order this catalog item. All that context information from the incident has been passed through here. So the caller of the incident is actually who we default the request for. Go ahead and check out. And this is what I love. So now I've actually submitted the catalog item. And if I click on View Details, I'm immediately switched over to the fulfillment side. So as an agent, I can order you that laptop, and within one click, start the fulfillment of that laptop. So that's actually pretty cool. So again, addressing agent productivity. Everything you see here is really going to help agents be more productive. That's my demo. I want to bring up Kylan. I'm sure you have questions about what I can do to customize and configure this, and she will tell you.
Get out of presenter view.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
Escape?
Ask a quick question before you do that.
Yeah.
Are you going to show us requests as well, or just incidents?
I was just showing you incidents for today, but it does fully support requests in all our different task types.
Okay.
All right.
Maybe unplug it.
1 second here.
Anyone in IT can help us? Do I need to call the service desk? Oh, and I'm on. Oh, yeah. Hi. So thank you, Chris. Awesome demo, as always, and totally brave doing a live demo. We know live demos are notorious. So I'm also a product manager on Agent Workspace on Chung's team. One of the areas that I focus on is our admin experience. So the Agent Workspace is really optimized for a great agent experience, and we have Service Portal for Fulfiller. We have a lot of admin experience, and with Agent Workspace, we're starting off pretty simple in lists and forms. So I'm going to go over all the areas you can configure, but keep in mind we want it to be very configurable, but in a way that's intelligent and not overwhelming. So first we have some areas to configure. You have your lists, your tabs, forms, Agent Assist, Global Search, and Chat. So for lists, Chris went over the different areas of lists. Our list categories. So in the top part, which is the list part, your list admin or your workspace admin can configure categories in order to group your lists. These lists are a lot more like your favorites. Anyone here use our favorites or bookmarks, favorites, a lot of that? You know, the left nav is very what we have in our platform. It is configurable, but your admin can go in, and it's pretty complicated going down there. But if you give your agents the idle role, there's a lot in that left nav that's not pertinent to them. Maybe they don't work on changes or problems or accounts if they're a CSM agent. Here in the list is to provide exactly the list that the agents need. You can add any task, any list. It's a filtered list. Chris already showed you how that worked. But the categories let the list admin group these, and they're the collapsible areas. And then filtered lists, the admin can set that up, and my list agents can create their own as well. So those are configurable. It's like a really easily configurable left nav. It's just through a list and form. The tabs, the navigation structure, we have a few things that are going on, or that are configurable. You'll see the new button, the cross button up there. That new record menu is configurable. So you can add a table to it, like you add incidents, you add problems. If you want your agents to work on problems, maybe they create changes, maybe they create cases or accounts, and all that's configurable, but it also adheres to ACLs. So some of your agents may not have the rights on the table to create a problem. It won't show up in this menu, but the ones who do have those permissions, it shows up. So that plus menu does the top. You can choose which service catalog your agents are going to use for the requests that Chris just demoed. And then we also have that new button on lists. It is the static one, but there may be certain lists you don't want them to create, your agents to create new records in. So you can exclude them on the list new button. Forms. Forms is real power in Agent Workspace. We talked about the form header. This is pulling any of the fields on the form to give quick context around the form. That's configurable. The ribbon is also the widgets that are the different sections that show up are configurable. You can decide how wide they are. You can decide which ones on which kind of records. So maybe the timeline isn't something that you want to use, but you want the 360, customers 360, one for the caller and one for their company, and you can pull that information. The idea is to give context right around the record, around the call, around the SLAs and so forth, and then it's collapsible. The form layout is actually pulled from your platform form layout. So if you've configured a view, that's what it's using. It's pulling a workspace form view, but it's just the same place you would configure. So it has those controls. If you don't need activity stream on the form, if it's not there, the form goes all the way across. Our templates, of course, they pull through. So if your agent has access to templates now, it'll automatically show up in there. Right now, there's no create in Workspace. That's coming. But for now, they can instantly apply them. And then the UI actions as well. So any UI actions, if you have conversion UI actions or any of the other ones are supported. All right. Agent Assist. You already talked about Agent Assist. This is your contextual search. You can configure it just like you would for the platform. Beyond that, search. Search has what we call search sources. Anyone use Service Portal and are familiar with search sources? We do support search sources. So this will define what resources your agents have to search from, including external ones. So maybe you want to pull up YouTube results, or you have your knowledge base on another platform. Should move it up. But, you can mix, so you can mix and match internal and external. All right, so chat, we already talked about it a bit. The interaction queues is another configurable area, but maybe you don't have your agents using chat at this time, or you're not using it integrated with ServiceNow. If that's disabled, the icon won't show up. And then OpenFrame is your CTI telephony integrations. And if that is not enabled, that also will not show up. So it's really to give the agents exactly what they need and not be distracted by things that they don't have access to. Okay. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Chung Lee.
Thank you. So I think two questions probably come to your mind. First of all, where exactly are you going in terms of roadmap? And then the second of all is, where do I sign up? Right? So let me try to kind of answer both of those questions in that order. A few of you who have actually come up to us, in the booth. We love the feedback that you're already giving us, and even the UX team who actually had a chance to kind of speak with a few of you, really, really also appreciate this feedback. I mean, as part of our commitment to you is to kind of continue to innovate this product based on what your agents' needs are. And so please do give us that feedback. So a few of the things that were brought up, even not only in the conversations, but also that we have outlined in our roadmap, there are going to be new personas. I think a few of us kind of like, we actually want to solve for the tier 1 agents. Sometimes they tend to be more the traffic cops routing it to Sue, who needs to kind of solve that because she's an L2 agent, or Sam, who's going to be kind of like the technical architect that can actually have the subject matter expertise to solve these. And so trying to understand what exactly are the other personas, so things like tier 2 agents or an admin, when they actually want to see the different statistics, like which are the hot trending kind of tickets for the day? What exactly are my agents, in terms of their load from a queue's perspective? How productive have each one of those agents been? So all those statistics are some of the things that we're looking to do, even embed into the admin persona. Some of the things around the situational awareness, I think a few of you brought up the idea of notifications. We came up with, how do we make that dot a little bit brighter? I think a few of you wanted, how can I make a big banner out there and just kind of say, hey, you have a P1 issue that's coming up. There are all different ways to kind of like make that kind of pop so that the agent who's actually working on that particular case not only has the awareness of what's going on in that case, but also has the visibility of the incidents that may be coming through. Personalization. It's our commitment to you and your agents that this software should not work or force your agents to work differently than they work today, right? The configuration settings that Kylan kind of walked you through, and even some of the things that we're looking to do from our end is, how do we emulate the way you work? Because at the end of the day, if we are making you work the way we work, we don't know how you run your business, and you're not doing any of us any favors doing that. And us, by designing a software that we believe emulates better the way that your agents work, making the activity stream, top, front, and center, are some of the things that we're already taking a step to understanding, what exactly are the pieces that they spend most of their time in. Agent tools, the contextual sidebar, what you see there is nothing more than just the beginning. There are probably a lot of other different kind of sources of information that you either want to have access to, integrate with, or be able to search upon. Like, what are all the different components that we want to also embed there? Those are also the areas. And last but not least, when we think about this Agent Workspace, and this will actually lead to the next slide, we know that this is a big gamble. To some extent, this is something we're reacting to a lot of the feedback that you've given us. And we hope that this is a good stab. And I think based on the feedback we're getting from the room so far, and even from the keynotes, it sounds like we've starting to kind of hit the mark. But we also know that maybe some of this, you may want some things to be bigger, some things to be smaller, orange, red, or even add some other things in there that we don't know about, right? Out of the gate, we're going to try and see what are the things that you like versus not like, but then we'll add some more configuration settings. Then after that, we'll be able to give you the ability to kind of even build your own UI, the way that you want your agents to kind of work. And so these are all the different ways that we're thinking about it, evolving from a roadmap perspective. So let me address the earlier question that I mentioned in terms of how can you get involved, or how do you sign up? So to some extent, it's a little confusing because there's kind of like two parts of this. But the main thing that you have to consider when you're actually making the choice is, do you want to test in production, or do you want to have a sandbox to kind of play with and try it out, for your agents to kind of see what their agent's experience is going to be like. So on the left-hand side is those of you that want to be kind of like trying out. It's almost like try before you buy, right? So you have your sandbox, you can play around with it. Nothing's going to happen to your production instance. And this is kind of what we call the alpha testing program, right? So we'll do our best, and for those of you that do sign up with us, we'll kind of like make sure that you're either part of what we call the design partners or customer data program. And then we'll give you a sandbox either with your own data or with a made-up third-party company. And then you can kind of bang against it and try it out and see what makes sense, right? And what your agents are also telling us would be also valuable feedback for us. All we ask in that instance is that we'll have a kickoff session to kind of brief your agents about what it is all about. We'll have a few follow-up sessions to kind of get that feedback, firsthand. On the right-hand side is kind of what we call the limited access. This is a little bit more involved. It is going to be something that you can deploy in production if you like. And this is exactly kind of like what we're also looking to do in case you not only want to try it out, it's like I'm almost prepping to kind of like be something that my agents are already going to be doing. Now, with the right-hand side, please note that you can shift between kind of what you have today versus the Agent Workspace. So, the data integrity is preserved that way. But at the same time, the right-hand side is a little bit more involved. So again, the choice is here. We love to kind of get feedback. So either way that you participate with us, we'll do our best to kind of get back to you. We have even community set up that we can actually have each one of you kind of interact with each other so you can give us the feedback that you want. And if there are things that you like, vote up. We'd love to kind of hear from you. Okay? Yeah.
What does this cost?
Great question, Chris. So one of the things that so let me kind of get to the bottom line. It's free. Okay? So many of you kind of have come by, and then towards the end, they're like, how much does this cost? It's free. And I think I get the same reaction that I get here today. We believe that this is something that is going to transform kind of the experience that you, yourself, and even the agents that you support are going to be dealing with. But at the same time, this is also a platform-level investment that we've kind of consciously made, from a company perspective. And so it is not an additional module. There is no additional cost. And so it is going to be something that you can have once you do upgrade to the London release. Okay? All right. Should we open up for Q&A?
Please.
All right. Go ahead.
Is there an option for agents to switch to the classic view in case they're not happy with this new and enhanced experience?
Yep. Yeah. Agent Workspace can work in parallel with Platform UI and does work in parallel with Platform UI.
Mm-hmm. All right.
You were talking about incident and CSM already here, but can we also use custom applications here as well, like task-based? So it's not limited to like incident and requests and stuff. So we have like finance incidents.
Absolutely. It supports any record type, not just task types.
Yeah, it would just need to have that view, and it would come up in Service Workspace or in Agent Workspace.
Sorry. Do you have a question?
You mentioned a new interaction record type that's being created. Is the intention with that to replace the call records that are currently in the platform? They seem very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And if so, what's the plan for the people that are currently using call records to convert or upgrade into that new interaction type?
Yep. So the plan for interaction or the plan for service desk call is to migrate users over to the new interaction management system within probably 3 releases. So it's not something we're going to do tomorrow. But as part of that plan, there will be a migration plugin that you can optionally activate that will move all your call records over to the new IMS system.
And maybe just kind of elaborate on this, and my colleague Victor always reminds me, sometimes in an interaction with a customer doesn't always result in a case, right? And so that's part of the reason. I mean, we've studied quite a bit about some of the ways that your agents work. I mean, I think you saw even in the keynote some of the places that our research team has kind of like visited. But what we feel is like sometimes a phone call is just a phone call. Sometimes an email is just an email. It doesn't always necessarily have to result in a particular case. And that's why the entity of an interaction record exists.
Going directly off that, one question. You said that in the chat window it comes in, I'm assuming that it captures that in interactive records, and then of course you can support it to another support group entire chat window and can be pre-prepped without having the user review themselves. So that's the purpose of kind of the interaction record as well.
Yeah, exactly. It captures information about what's going on within the chat, and then from there, like Chung said, you can create an incident, create a case, and that information is then forwarded into that incident.
So agents already do a triage, it's already been severing interactions. They're like, yeah, wrong team, send it. It's already appended, moved over, and transferred out.
Yep, and like any other record, you can customize your own business rules and workflows around interaction.
Sorry.
So does then the chat history record get converted to an interaction record?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The chat record that has a chat activity, is that converted to an interaction record?
Yeah, automatically. Every chat, every phone call that comes into the system is actually an interaction record.
Go ahead.
Are all of the control types supported in the new workspace that you might have on a form, or are there some of them that won't be there?
That's an awesome question.
Good
I love that
question.
one.
Format is thrown in.
Awesome question.
Yeah, so if you're pretty familiar with the platform, you understand that we have probably 100 plus different form types that we support in platform. Our initial release supports 30, but luckily we looked at all your instances and we know we support 90% of your use cases with those just 30. And so part of our roadmap, we will continue to build out those form controls to have more support.
Is there any support for anything along the lines of UI format or equivalents, or is that really on the roadmap?
Not at this time, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but this is a brand new UI built on a brand new UI framework, and so old formatted and macros are simply not supported.
But nothing equivalent used yet.
Not yet, but there certainly will be.
Sorry. Go ahead.
A question about
Let's get him
multi-screen
next.
form.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to have multiple tabs going in multiple screens or different widgets in different screens?
So we've talked about docking and undocking of tabs, but as of right now, it's not quite on our roadmap yet. But that's where you guys come in. You tell us what you need, and that helps us define our roadmap.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Chat integration, interactive, integrated with Teams or something like that?
Well, Teams and Slack can actually talk to a virtual agent, which will then wind up into Agent Workspace. You, sir.
Over there.
Do you actually support UI policies? Do you support the standard UI actions? Do you support
UI actions, UI policies, and client scripts are all supported. However, like I mentioned, this is a new UI framework, so a slightly different scripting environment. So there are some rules that you need to abide by, similar to how Service Portal functions today.
Go ahead, gentleman in the back.
So two questions. Number one is this going to be available for HR? And number two is, expanding on that question, for customers with older instances with some heavy customization with content scripts and things like that, what advice would you have to prepare for this new UI?
So I can probably try to answer the first one. I'll defer to the folks that are, the teams that are here to answer the second. So HR is definitely one of the areas that we're looking to kind of expand workspace. Currently, right now, we're trying to address probably the majority of the folks in this audience, which is the ITSM, and then to a lesser extent, the CSM market. HR is some of the things that we're definitely looking to do. The trick with HR is that HR, from a submitting the form for parental leave versus like the application for 401k, they're very different kind of like formats with different kind of requirements for the actual form itself. So we're trying to figure out how exactly can Workspace accommodate the different forms that are coming through, in such a way that all the approvals are also kind of like taken care of. So that would be my first. But it is definitely on the consideration from a roadmap perspective. And then I'll answer. We'll try to.
I can address on the customizations. You have a highly customized instance. One of the things that we have on the roadmap is improving the admin experience through. We want to learn about what you need, so we can build the migration tools. So one of them, we know that there are a number of things for form. So that's one of the areas we're looking is to provide admin migration tools. So we want to learn that from you as well.
Go ahead.
Are the tabs saved across agent sessions? Like, can they log out one day and they come back the next, and the tabs still be there?
I don't believe they're saved between sessions.
Save between refreshes within a browser context. I think once you close it, it will clear it.
Right. Yeah, you can have 10 tabs open, refresh your browser, we'll open those 10 tabs up, but if you log out and log back in, session's lost.
Okay, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So if you have any continuing questions, feel free to kind of stick around. Again, the way that you sign up, just before folks kind of start leaving, either one of these, please start by filling out the survey that's part of this. we'll start kind of, and then at the bottom of it, there's a question that asks, would you like for us kind of follow up with you? Are they more in depth with an agent presentation? Please fill that out. That's kind of how you will get started on this process, and that's how we'll engage with you going forward.
One last thing is at the back of the expo hall, we have our UX research team and design team who, if you want to learn more, you want to demo, you want to provide feedback, go visit them. They're open a few days for the rest today and tomorrow as well. So again, the back of the expo hall.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.